Welcome to Hip Hop Now Podcast. If you're from the future, you know what to do. Get your ass out of here. Don't disrespect the legend. Hip hop is here to stay. Let's get right into the business. What up, y'all? I am your host, Vegas, and this is Hip Hop Now Podcast, a podcast specifically designed to keep you caught up on all things hip hop, music, and rap beef. That happens throughout the week. Big shout out to the supporters over at patreon.com/hiphopnow. And if you would like to learn what that's all about, visit the link in the description of this episode. Also, if you don't know, now you will know, we are on the road to 500 subscribers. And right now we're at 426, I think, 427. We're on our way, We at one point it was right at the cusp of 400. Now we about, we need 70 something more. So the easiest way to do that is if you're watching this and you're not subscribed, but you enjoy the content you've seen so far. Also check out other videos I have on this podcast. I have a tape series where I go back and give you some stories about some of the cassettes I have here in the garage. If you can't tell, this is not a mansion, but this is the garage. And other series like specials, like if you're wondering why he not talking about the Kendrick Euphoria joint. We already did that this week. You can go and check that out. I had my guest on, Ak, the homie. We talked about Kendrick Lamar's diss or response to Drake's diss, which, well, I guess it's still a diss, right? Yeah. Euphoria, how we felt about it, where it stands in the lexicon of hip hop diss records, breaking down some of the lyrics, all that good stuff. And now here we are, and we have more to talk about, but we will talk about the new stuff. So the best thing you can do is subscribe, hit that like button, comment in the comment section. Obviously, I will, and I have read comments, and I will respond to them in one way or another, so we could chop it up about some of the things that's being talked about on the show. But most importantly, sharing it with people would also enjoy this kind of content. If you're listening on the audio side and you just didn't realize there was a video version, the link is in the description of this episode. Join the party so you can see my facial expressions. Now, before I get into the hip hop joint, if you paid attention to my garage, over there you see a helmet, Kylo Ren from Star Wars. Right next to that is 3 lightsabers. Now, if you're from the future, it already happened, you know what, so get your ass out of here. But May the 4th be with you. It's tomorrow. And I so wanted it to be today while I was recording. I was going to pull out the lightsabers and pretend like I know what I'm doing, but I'm not going to do that. So follow me on social media. I will be representing one of the franchises that I love. It's cool to love things other than hip hop as well. It's not just movies and sci-fi and, like my wife would say, toys, but I also love sports. So there you have it. Big shout out to hiphopdx.com and Brochure for Heads and Double XL Mag. They stepping in there they stepping up. I've been looking at a couple of the tweets and the posts, and I'm like, okay, it's feeling like back in the day. So big shout out to them. That's where I get some of my stories from. Let's get right to the business. First and foremost, we got to start off on somewhat of a sad note, but in a lot of ways, I think it's always positive to remember people and their impact in your lives. But in this case, on the hip hop game specifically, Dallas Penn, who was a hip hop journalist. Most people remember him with Combat Jack, internets. That's how they would talk, which I thought was funny. I even started saying it some myself. He passed away recently, unfortunately. Obviously, all of hip hop was saying rest in peace, especially those who actually knew who he was. But as a hip hop journalist, there's a certain level of integrity that came along with his work. And the reason why I say that in that way is because now we live in a space of hip hop where hip hop journalism's integrity is in question. And that has a lot to do not with the art of podcasting. I podcast, but the difference is some people podcast and it's cool, and I just happen to have a degree in media. So I can stand a little bit. I can put my chest out a little bit. I know what I'm doing. Okay, I know what I'm doing. Um, but a lot of the talk about hip hop journalism and it not being the same, or just being real with how they promote things, let me not say promote, how they cover hip hop is really like it's drawing a line in the sand and really preys on a lot of ignorance in a lot of ways. And when I say that, I mean there are fans younger. When I say younger, I'm not just talking about teenagers. I'm talking about of other generations who are fans of certain podcasters and refer to them as journalists. Some of them refer to themselves as journalists. And when I watch some of their content, I see them make all the fundamental ground floor mistakes you do not make, in particular ethical mistakes that you do not make as a actual journalist. I don't care if it's hip hop, video games, whatever you cover. There's just certain things as a journalist, certain, you know, like a style guide that every newsroom has. There's just certain things you don't do. And they don't know this. Why? Because they didn't really study journalism. And it's possible to study journalism and apply it to things like hip hop. See, people think like you don't have to take hip hop or anything that's in the same situation, any genre that's in the same situation, and apply real world journalism ethics to it. Oh, they just rapping. It's just hip hop. But fans appreciate a deeper experience when it's offered. And that's just real because we're all human. That's why this all goes back to the fundamentals. For example, right? I don't mind drink champs, but I see people who complain about certain things when it comes to Nori. Now, I'll say this with Nori. Let's start on a positive note. He tends to ask the hip hop questions that I want to hear from some of these legends, like questions that dated back since the 90s that hip hop fans wanted to know. And because it's on his platform, now we get the answer. So that's what makes it really good. And that's what makes him good at researching and finding the questions he thinks he should ask. The problem is because he's not really trained like that, he can't help but to constantly interrupt the person after he's asked the question. That is a no-no in journalism. That's a no-no in media. Ask your question and listen. That's what you're supposed to do. Write down your follow-up. If they say something, write down that follow-up. But wait for them to finish talking. That's journalism. That's media. That's broadcasting. That's what you're supposed to do. So even though you may still enjoy it as is, because we can't just, well, I mean, we can, he still could. Nori could go and get a undergrad in journalism. You know how doper his show will become instantly because now he knows more about what he does? Don't be afraid of the education. That's all I'm saying. But to a lesser extent, because that's just a thing, right? That's a style. Not every person who has a podcast or writes does some of these things. Some of it is a mixed bag. Some know better than others. Like I think Math Hoffa knows I'm gonna ask my question and let them speak. I don't know if he has a communications degree, but he gets that part of it. You feel me? The only part about his podcast that sometimes is annoying to me is there's too many people who are there to ask questions. So everybody leaving the show and this guy get this guy off the show, this guy off the show. I'm kind of glad. Good. It should be two of y'all. You and the dude who I always forget his name with the glasses, you and him ask questions. And you can have a side person there that's maybe like a producer, an actual producer who finds the question that maybe you two don't ask, right? But they don't talk as much. They're there to react, but they don't talk as much. So, in a lot of ways, and I know I'm just talking about podcasting, but that's what people obviously consider to be journalism because most people do not read anymore. Cats like Dallas Penn, and plenty of writers from back in the days, people like Elliot Wilson, like people who ran publications, they get it. They have a background in this stuff. They know enough about the content and how to deliver it in a way that's meaningful. And in a lot of ways, it's tough because online you're going to find this battle of the people who know how it should be, how it could be better if they would just tweak this little thing or do this. And then you have the people who are millionaires with a untrained sort of delivery style. And maybe in a lot of ways, that's what it is going forward for hip hop journalism. Maybe that's what it is. Maybe the integrity will solely lie on the person who is the journalist, right? Like maybe a person like Rhapsody had a tweet similar, about this whole situation and how she missed. I mean, she said, well, this was more so about radio, but she said something else about journalism also, and how they just missed it being more about talking about the art in intellectual ways that didn't have to be dumbed down for our audience because the audience was right there with them. Most of you guys are doing a disservice to your audience because you already think they're dumb. So you're going to give it to them dumb. And then they're going to bring their dumb ass on Twitter and say it like they know that's what it is. And it's not, and look wrong. And they won't even care if they're wrong because being wrong is right. it, it just is. So, in a lot of ways, I don't mean to soapbox this whole thing, but it's just interesting to see how when you have guys like this that pass away, and you think about the work they put in, even in the early podcasting days when we're talking about Dallas, you just wonder, like, wow, is it just all going to be academics? Now, with academics, I will say this for academics. I would categorize what he does as more tabloid. And I think that makes everything he's doing fine, right? You're gonna be on the gossip train, you getting the stories, cool. Because I mean, that's what Wendy Williams did back in the days, heavy. People tuned in to get inside information, or at least what they thought was inside information and drama and tea and whatever you want to call it, from her. And some of her things are coming true, did he? Some of those things are coming true. Wendy Williams wasn't lying. So again, I mean, as long as there are those like myself out here, providing some context to go along with gossip and hype and rap battles that we're going to talk about, I think we're good. I don't think certain people should get out just because there are things they don't do right. And I feel like they need to go back. They need to go to school or go back to school or whatever. But I think it would help if they were just more informed in how they do things. If they had a producer who instilled things within them so they become better hosts and better journalists in the hip hop space. But now everybody's just, everything's a trend, and people just want to have their job and stay happy and get out of the way. And maybe I'm just old. So I tweeted on Twitter. You can follow me on Twitter at Vegas World INC. We don't recognize the X because he's just gonna have to change it back, dog. We just say Twitter. Just stop it. Just change it back. That's all we gonna say ever. Everybody. Uh, but I tweeted because I was just thinking back, and I was like, Man, when's the last time we had something from the Wu? And I don't mean as a group. Sure, I would love that, a group album. But I was like, it just feels like for all those members, they're kind of quiet. And as I tweeted that, then I thought about like, well, Czarface just had a joint last year, uh, which is led by Inspector Deck. So that's like Inspector Deck albums. If you were one of those people like, man, we just never got that Inspector Deck album, check out the Czarface series. They're all dope. And Inspector Deck is like the leading MC in that group. But also, I had forgot because maybe the album just didn't stick with me that well, even though it wasn't that bad at all. Method Man dropped an album not too long ago, Meth Lab 3. Um, and I believe that was last year also. So it just felt like, okay, that's two Wu members, but there's plenty of Wu members. And I know RZA had dropped like a couple of projects in 2022. It just felt like a slow rollout from a group that has so many members that could be really active, but just didn't seem like they were being active at all. And lo and behold, probably the person I was talking about the most that I would be excited if they announced a new album. Ghostface Killah has announced he has a new album coming very soon called Set the Tone. Also, he dropped a new single featuring Nas, and I think this is the first time Nas been on a Ghostface album ever. The song is called Scar Tissue. It's exactly what you expect from Ghost. It's exactly what you expect from the beat. It's exactly what you expect from Nas. And I remember I said on this podcast not that long ago, something got to come out of this Nas and Wu traveling together on a tour. Like something got to come out of that. What I think this song is one of those things, but I also think being on that tour with the Wu and that whole nostalgia of their careers and performing, and Redman was there for a lot of dates and stuff like that. I think that also helped push Nas to want to make an album with Primo. Like, yo, let's just give the heads what they want. So Ghostface has a new album coming out. Now, Ghostface's last album was, I think it was called Ghostface Killers, like a nightclub or a restaurant style. And I remember, even though there wasn't a lot of fanfare about it, because I don't think people really liked it like that, or thought it was cool and forgettable. But I liked it a lot because in recent years, there was a time between Ghostface's probably last really good project, and then there was all these like random projects that didn't really, you know, fit with what you expect from Ghost, right? Now the Ghostface Czarface joint was dope. I think it was it Ghostface and Czarface and MF Doom? I don't know. But I think it was Ghostface and Czarface, right? That was dope. But it just felt like it was a long time. And when Ghostface Killers came out, I was just excited because for a long time, Ghost's voice sound different. Like the Ghost that we know has a really kind of like high pitched, almost pitched nasally kind of voice. Shonda with the glass in the hand, and like that, and that's what we like. But then it turned into the same delivery, but a more gruff version that where he almost sound hoarse. And I didn't know if that was new or he changed something about the way he approached performing this music, or if he had a condition or what. I didn't know what it was. And then he was like doubling up his voice, so it was extra. I always hated the double track. Like I hated when Tupac did. I really hated it. Was distracting to me. So I didn't like it, but the Ghostface Killers joint came out and he sounded like old Ghost again. So I was like, oh, well, maybe he did have a condition because it sounded like he back. So with this Scar Tissue single, I kind of feel like I think it's cool. It's to me, it's nothing earth shattering. It's kind of dope to hear them together. I think for the most part, the reason why I'm not super hyped based off of this single I mean, it has Ghostface and Nas. Like, I think I don't know if I like the beat as much. I think you talking about the first song on a Ghostface album that features Nas, and that's the beat. Like that, I think that's the thing. Like my anticipation was high for it, and it just didn't meet that. But by no means is it whack. I think it's a dope song. I'm just more interested in the album and hearing more about the album and hearing that joint. So when it comes out, I'll do a review, obviously, right here on the podcast. So hit that subscribe button to stay locked in. And lastly, so like I said early on in the podcast, I did a special podcast, had my guest Ak on the show. We broke down Kendrick's response to Drake's diss record, Push Ups. Kendrick responded with a song called Euphoria. We took close to 2 hours of just talking about this record, its impact, breaking down the lyrics, how we felt when we first heard it, what we think Drake should do next, just everything, right? And in a lot of ways, one thing I walked away with is when someone is literally in every bar saying something about you, even if some of those things had been said and you're saying them in a different way, forget what was said before by other rappers. Address the things that are now revelations to us, right? Like cease and desist on the Like That record. Like stuff like that, that was like, yo, okay, Drake, what about this? What about your, did what seems to be a track record of you doing this when you don't like it? What seems to be the situation when you send a feature request to, I guess, and look, don't get me wrong, it might have been an olive branch, and I'm not talking about now, but it might have been an olive branch to Kendrick at some point. You send that to him, and he's like, nah, I'm good. I don't like you for whatever. And it was a lot that was revealing in that record, but not just within that record, how that record spoke to why Drake has all these different rappers and producers and people in hip hop aiming at him. At some point, it's not hate, because what I remember from y'all, Drake stands, not fans, because I'm a fan. Drake stands. What I remember before this, Drake's last album, the consensus was it was not good. And that was the first time I seen so many people, including Stans, feeling that way. Like they were getting on this. That's why he dropped the Scary Hours joint right after that. And I thought Scary Hours is always dope. And I thought that was dope. I think it was Scary Hours 6 or whatever. I thought that was dope. But it kind of fizzled out. Now we move forward, and now everybody's pretending that he's huge. Nah, man, I remember how y'all was talking about Drake. So he was kind of down, and in this battle, providing he responds to Euphoria, starting to heat up. But Kendrick done dropped another song, y'all. Friday, May 3rd, 2024. Kendrick Lamar at, I believe, 6:16 a.m. in LA. Because I believe where I'm on the East Coast, it was 9:16 a.m. when I saw it. I didn't put two and two together. On his Instagram account, on his IG account, he released a new diss record called 6:16 in LA, which plays off of a number of songs and freestyles or whatever that Drake has released, 6 a.m. in Toronto and stuff like that or whatever. That's a theme. That's a thing. And I like those records from Drake. That's a thing that Drake does. But also 6:16. Now y'all gonna have to fact check me on this because I saw this on social media and I was like, nah, you gotta be kidding me. 6:16 is also Tupac's birthday. And something about 6:16 a.m. in LA was when uh I think warrants or something was handed out regarding the OJ trial. I forget what it was. I don't know if it was a warrant or court documents or whatever it was. It's some connection to that because also the cover of this disc record is two black gloves. And the Easter egg with the black gloves is the MM for Maybach Music, which is Rick Ross thing. That's not even getting to the bars. So this time around, you find Drake digging more deeply into things like Drake's entourage. See, before he focused a lot on Drake as the rapper, and you want to be black and blah blah blah. Or not you want to be black, you want to appropriate blackness. Um, but there's something not right with you, even though you're half black. There's just something not right with you and what you're doing. So he talked about a bunch of stuff in Euphoria, but this is digging a little bit deeper. And he alluded to this joint in Euphoria. In Euphoria, he said, let me pull up the lyrics, y'all. Let me just go right to it and not even mince any words. So he said, back to back, I like this is on Euphoria. Back to back, I like that record. I'm gonna get back to that for the record. Now, within Euphoria, he never really got back to that record, but I think he was talking about this record, this new record, 616, because this is how Drake did the rollout against Meek Mill, right? He dropped early in the week. It probably was a Tuesday, which is crazy. I don't know. Y'all got to fact check. But he dropped early in the week. And by Friday, there wasn't no response from Meek Mill. So Drake dropped back to back. Well, now here's Kendrick sort of doing back to back without calling it back to back. Calling it back to back would have been corny, like back to back part two, something. That's why I don't really like Sheetha like that. Because even though I thought Remy got busy on that joint, I was like, Sheetha doesn't sound the same as either. Like, you should have just called it something else. Um, but one of the bars that I wanted to point out in this new song, 616 in LA, and this comes courtesy of a quick breakdown from Double XL magazine. Kendrick Lamar implies Drake has moles in his camp on new diss track 616 in LA. And here are some of the lyrics that I'm going to quote. Have you ever thought that OVO was working for me? Fake bully, I hate bullies. You must be a terrible person. Everyone inside your team is whispering that you deserve it. Can't Tusi slide up out of this one? Is just going to resurface. Every dog got to have his day. Now live in your purpose. Body bag. That's not even the whole joint. But that is an example of what this record is. And the beat for Euphoria was more, bouncy, more like the music you hear today for the most part. Shout out to more like Keem's song, Family Ties, whatever, had that feel to it. This is like a Al Green sample loop that and no alien noises, just rapping this K dot right now. This K dot rapping. And the only reason why I say that because I'm just talk real quick about the reactions from social media, and then we gonna get up out of here. But real quick, what I do as a journalist in hip hop is, of course, I listen to these records over and over, and the lyrics, and I follow everything, including Drake stuff and what J. Cole did and everything. But most importantly, I watch the reactions in the comment sections of all of this stuff just to see what people are saying and who they are. Some people I can identify as old heads right off the bat. They don't like it. They don't like Euphoria. They don't like this. They don't get the references. They don't like the beats. They don't like the delivery. This whole thing is soft to them, right? And then you have a younger generation where this is their time, this is their battle, right? for their era. This could be even their first time being of a certain age with a battle going down that's this of this magnitude. And they don't get it either because to them, it's about money, it's about popularity, and it's about vibes. And there's just certain boxes you need to check. Now, I know a neutral person, maybe like yourself, would say, well, well, then is this even good if nobody likes it? Well, there's plenty of people who like it. There's plenty of people who know exactly what's being said, exactly what's being done. They get all the references. Now, I'm gonna talk about the old heads real quick, and then we're gonna talk about the young folk, and then we out. Let's talk about the young folk first. For them, all that triple entendres and the quadruple entendres and stuff, that stuff is cool, but they more into the pick a side thing. And it's not all of them, not everybody young, but most casuals, right? This is how they feel. But there are a lot of young people who love to Google and research and resurface. And Kendrick Lamar, with both records, has given them a smorgasbord of look at everything, go look it all up and see how it all ties together. Again, like I said, with the Tupac birthday being 616 and all that stuff, like this is coming from them. They the ones like, yo, let me find blah blah blah. And I like that part about it because the difference is that whereas Drake may post a film that most black people haven't seen, some of us have. Don't get me wrong. I watch whatever if it's good. Uh, poking fun at the hate part and Euphoria by Kendrick. That's has nothing to do with bars. That's just poking fun. Calling somebody short. Oh, of course we can see he's short. Especially on TV. When you look short on TV, you really short. Okay, but what is that saying? That's not saying anything when his accusations are all about you and your entire lifestyle and your habits. You're guessing. But when you go to Kendrick's situation and these young cats who would like to research, it's making the bars better. It's making them understand. It's training them to listen intently when it comes to hip hop battles, and it's making it about skill. Drake is making it about pacifying. Kendrick is making it about electrifying. Now, old heads who soft, blah blah blah. This is weak. This is the weakest battle ever. Whoa, no, it's not. Because I could come up with a couple battles that were pretty weak, and the reason why we don't bring them up is because they were that forgettable. Um, they don't want to hear a battle in this way, and in particular, what Kendrick has done for the most part. They don't get all the references, and I'm not just talking about just bars, but there's some references to things that they just wouldn't know about because it's really like on the timelines of younger fans. Only reason why I know is because I feel like it's my job as a hip hop journalist to know. And more importantly, what I don't know, I go and look it up and say, oh, and it enhances the listening experience because now you realize what sounded like Kendrick was just rapping and not really saying nothing. Now you realize everything he said had a meaning. Everything he said was a shot. Some people don't want to do that in their old age. And I get it. Before it was just really direct, old heads, we can't help ourselves. We from a boom bap era where we like boom shots over your head, blah, blah, blah. That's what we want to hear. Clear stuff. My violence towards you. Even during even back during the early 2000s where you had the bean sequels and all of that and everybody beefing. I used to say to my friends, I was like, yo, rap battles now is more about like making threats towards one another. Because if you think about it, you say all them joints. Like I think Nas and Jay-Z stood out because they actually were being clever, like really clever with what they were coming up with. with their schemes and stuff. So it wasn't just threats, it was more about schemes. They were battling. Whereas there were plenty of rappers who was just saying, what violence they was going to bring to you. Even though I can't front, when Styles P said to Beanie Siegel, you could bring the baby gorilla with you, he dying for free, talking about Freeway, I was like, my God, it's both. It's a threat and it's bars. So I get it. We're just used to some really knockout, drag out beef type of battles. But what Kendrick is doing is still that. It's just in a very different way. And I'm sorry, but when you tell somebody you step off that plane in LA, my middle name is extortion, is that not a threat? But again, it's the same reason why some of us don't like the NBA today, don't like the NFL today. I get mad too. Like, damn, will defense get the tackle? Like, it is what it is. It's called change. And if you like the old stuff, go listen to the old stuff. Or listen to the newer cats who do the things you like. Stay out of it because they shooting outside. Okay. So what do you think about this battle, which has now kind of been filed down to Drake versus Kendrick Lamar? I'm hoping by the time I upload this, Drake hasn't already dropped a crazy bomb and now we swinging in that direction. But honestly, I just want Drake to drop one more joint and then we just judge it from there and we move on, because at some point it's exhausting and it's just going to get corny after a while. Response. And somebody drop an album, okay? So leave your comments in the comment section below. Please subscribe, like, and more importantly, share with people enjoy this kind of hip-hop content. Until next time, y'all, I'm not a critic, I'm a fan. Peace.